Welcome back. We are back with our mini discussion on Little Nightmares 2, starring Brian, me, Ilker, you, and everyone else watching us. That was very smooth transition. Yeah. So every now and then when me and Ilker and I, we play a game together, we like to do a little discussion. The last one we did was Detention, I want to say.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was Detention, which was by Red Candle Games. Phenomenal game, really kind of heavy emotional experience, and we had a nice talk about that. Another one we did was Doki Doki Literature Club. Well, it's all on our YouTube page. If you guys don't follow us there, give us a follow or just look them up because there's some fun discussions there. And then the other one was, we didn't do a discussion on the haunted house game, did we?
Oh, the sweet 776? 776? I never know how to pronounce that.
Yeah.
We never did, but like we usually do these mini discussions for games that we spend a lot of time with, or maybe affected us in a emotional way, or
yeah,
in some way.
Yeah, usually when we do play-alongs, essentially, and we finish it, right? So hopefully when we finish The Witness sometime soon, that we can have a nice mini discussion on that, because I have some thoughts. Great game so far.
Yeah, I think that game needs a discussion afterwards.
For sure. Normally, if you're joining us for the first time, we are Indie Game Social Club. We are a book club with no books. And we basically pick a game to play as a group, and we discuss it at the end of the month. This month's game is What the Golf, which we will be discussing this Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time in the United States and some other time in Sweden.
It's going to be at 7 p.m. for anyone in Sweden.
There you go.
European time.
There you go. All right. So the mini discussion we are doing today is for Little Nightmares. Ilker, why don't you tell everyone what Little Nightmares is and who makes it?
Let me pull this up. Little Nightmares 2 is I would call a puzzle platform game. It is developed by Tarsier Studios, which is a Swedish studio. Also says Supermassive Games. It is published by Bandai Namco.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it came out this year, and it's on basically all consoles, I think. It's even out on Google Stadia.
Nice. It is a direct sequel to 2017's Little Nightmares, which I believe came out in a bunch of chapters. And I'm hoping Little Nightmares 2 will have other chapters to continue the story. Because while very abstract, I don't fucking get it. I don't get what the story is trying to say. Smart and beyond my abilities. But yeah, it's...
So I was thinking about that, actually, because the story doesn't make sense to me either. And they've done 2 of these games now. Are they going to make a third one which connects everything together and connects the pieces together and trying to kind of explains what the heck is going on with this world?
Well, this is their third game. If you count their mobile game, Very Little Nightmares, that was, I believe, a prequel to Little Nightmares 1.
Sure, but I think they'll yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, that's all to say. There's more coming, and they like to fill in their stories from different angles. And I'm assuming if there's DLC, it'll probably, I want to say it would probably connect the dots between Little Nightmares 1 and 2. I'm hoping they do, because they don't really explain why we run into possibly 6 or not 6 in the game, and they don't really explain how she got there, right?
Yeah.
It is, for those uninitiated, it is a puzzle platformer, not unlike, similar in tone to Inside. Very bleak, very dark, kind of macabre. And there are environmental puzzles that kind of test your noodle on how you think in spatial places and stuff like that. This the footage being shown to you now is a good indicator of how they teach you. You have 2 moves you can do. You have your item move, which is either a flashlight or later on a TV remote, and you have your push, pull, grab move, and you can use those to great effect. But yeah, it's a very simple game, very puzzle heavy, and it is my favorite form of storytelling, which I want to say is emergent, but I feel like I'm using that wrong. But storytelling that is told to you through the environment and not through words, because there's no script in this game. There's no acting necessarily or word dialogue spoken. It's all the shit that you see in the world around you that you can glean from, right?
Yeah, and I think, like, comparing this to the first game, I think the first game actually does that better than the second one.
You mean the
Like,
world building?
yeah, I mean, it tells the story better, I think, in the first game than it does in the second one. Because for me, like, I'm still clueless what the story is and why. Like, you make such big leaps from, like, you start on this. I don't know if you're on an island or if you're like you actually, like, you cross a river or some body of water to get to this city. And like, I don't know, like, one point that I had written down was actually that in the first game, I think the monsters and the levels are better connected to each other, because, like, I can't see the connection in the second game. Like, I don't see the connection between the monsters, because in the first game you have the for example, the chefs making the food for the buffet, which is like the last level that you got or you're up to. But like in the second game, I don't really see the connection between the monsters or the levels that we're walking through or trying to, like, escape from.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely, because there is a whole lot of setup and a whole lot of mystery, not a lot of payoff. Actually, I can't think of anything that was really paid off in the game, right? As opposed to Little Nightmares 1, spoiler alert, like the story kind of comes full circle. Like this kind of does in a way, but still, like, it doesn't really answer anything. It poses more questions than answers, right?
It feels more ham-fisted in this game. Like, if the ending of this game, I would say.
Yeah, like, I think they could have. It's what has me annoyed with the old J.J. Abrams TV shows. It's like you give them one answer and 3 more questions. It's like, even though we didn't have any answers in this one, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about the specifics then. What about the sound design or music design? What did you think of that?
Oh, it's fantastic. Like, sound design, they do a fantastic job with it. And like the game, it looks good, and like it presented really, really well. I think that my knocks to the game is basically the story, and from watching you play would be the controls, but we'll talk about that as well. But yeah, I think the sound design is phenomenal. Like, it sets the mood.
I think it was great because it knew when to be quiet and it knew when to play music. And even our main character doesn't talk, but him going, "Hey," like the delivery on that one, like, "Hey," to tell your friend to come over is like urgent. It's quiet. It's like, I don't know, that's just great acting from that one word, right? And like, it could have been done a million different ways, but the way it was done, I don't know, everything was just so tight and perfectly done from a sound point of view, where when it was quiet, it wasn't completely quiet. You hear rain or you hear wind, and it was just done to great effect. I loved it. Sound design, I would say, for me, was damn near perfect. It was really, really good.
Yeah, but just silence in a horror game, like to actually, like, make something eerie, that is also like a really good, like, it is a decision choice to actually, like, have silence.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah. So it kind of like ASMR moments too, right? Like between walking through leaves or like the rain hitting the gutter or even the whispering, the "Hey," like, I think all the sound choices were really great. Like hitting a hand with the hammer had the great satisfying crack sound, and even like the outstretching neck that you were terrified of is like, oh God, but like, it's a very good sound design choice that they used, right? Story we kind of brushed over on. It's like, if there is one, it's very hard to glean. It makes me feel dumb and not smart trying to.
I'm thinking like, did we miss anything? Like, we kind of rushed through some places. Like, were there stuff on the walls or in the background that we could have looked at to understand something? Or I don't know. But for me, the story, it doesn't really make sense. Like,
I mean, from the first game, there were a lot more story elements in the background that people can really kind of examine with a fine-tooth comb and say, oh, you see that picture in the background is similar to the body that you see when you start the game. And so I'm sure there's a lot more of that, but almost too subtle. And I'm sure if we discovered all those holographic projections in the game, they were put in really precarious places that would have filled in some gaps, you know?
Yeah.
Graphics and visual style, what would you say?
Oh, 10 out of 10. It looks really, really beautiful. And I like, you said it many times during the streams, like there's a lot of like backgrounds,
Desktop wallpapers. Yeah. You at any point you can freeze the game and you'll have a really great desktop wallpaper for sure. Especially the last 25% of the game, absolutely beautiful. Right?
Yep.
I would say it perfect.
Like pink color as well. That is, it has such a great effect when you try to introduce, like when you introduce that something colorful, like that radiant color of the pink from to like I don't know what's trying. Maybe they're trying to like show you that there's some magic going on here, or there's I don't know.
I mean, you're onto something because the whole game has a blue cast to it. Even in the footage that we see on stream right now, everything has a blue wash on it. And that game, like, I think if we go back and watch it, I'm fairly sure we go like, whoa, when we see that red light, because it was the first time you see something that is not that blue cast, you know?
Yeah.
And it's very visually striking. And I mean, I'm willing to go like 11 out of 10. This game, it goes for a very specific aesthetic and made zero compromises. It is perfect in terms of what they're going for. And like, I'm looking at the leaves, the particle effects, the fog in the first part of the game, and the way the leaves interact and kind of fall back and float back onto the floor. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
Just seeing the, like in the background, you see like you can see the
mist,
the trees,
right?
Yeah, like you see the contours of the trees. Like it just looks really, really beautiful. It's a beautiful game.
Use of camera in this game was used almost for, in my opinion, almost like a real movie camera. In that, remember in the beginning when you're running away from the hunter, there's that moment where you have focal blur where they focus on you and the hunter is blurry in the background, and it added so much tension in that, like he was blurry, but you can feel him and he was scared. I thought that was such a brilliant move. Games don't really do that. Like this is one of the first games that I saw. I'm like, wow, they really use it like how they would do it in movies, right? It was such a theatrical experience like that. I think I mentioned early on when we were playing that they use an effect that is similar to a vintage lens, in that they have chromatic aberration on the edge of the screen where kind of like the colors separate. You get a little bit of a rainbow or red hue shift on the edge of the screen, which is really cool. They use that with vintage lenses a lot. Really cool. I mean, they're probably using some sort of Unreal Engine or something like that, but this is a better execution of whatever engine they use than a lot of modern games I've seen.
It is Unreal Engine 4, actually.
Oh, it is? Yeah. I mean, they're using it perfectly. It's great. And you know, there's a thing about like working to the greatest strengths of an engine, right? They didn't try to make a realistic looking human. They try to make a really creepy looking human, and using this engine to its advantages, right? And the lighting was spectacular. Shadows were amazing. The physics were really great, you know?
I think the light design is what actually does it. Like if like all the lighting in the backgrounds or the environment, like I think that is actually what is setting the tone.
Oh, it's so perfect, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, we're in agreement that sound and music, graphics, visual style are all firing on all cylinders. Well, another thing we like to go through is if we complete it, we finish it. We finish the game. What are your overall impressions of the game now that we've finished it? Not necessarily good or bad, but how did it make you feel? That kind of stuff.
I don't know. It made me feel confused, but I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. Like again, it's a beautiful game. Like I didn't feel like I wanted to play this game. Just like by watching you play, it was enough for me, because it's so pleasing to look at. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about, but I'm actually forgetting it right now.
No worries.
Just
We can come back to it.
Yeah, sure. But like, again, I think for me, the game is, you can probably enjoy just watching someone play this, instead of just playing. Like, because looking at your gameplay, sometimes it looked like the controls were a bit clunky. But
yeah, let's talk about that. Controls. The criticism that I had for Little Nightmares 1 was that the loading times were ridiculous. And you had a very good point where it kind of ruined it for you in Little Nightmares 1, where the perspective was a little bit off and wonky, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of ruined it for you. I think they fixed a lot of issues, but more issues came up in this game, I believe.
Yeah.
Like something like when you grab a key and put the key into a lock, you had to approach the lock from a very specific angle, and it would work maybe 2 times out of 6, 2 times out of 5, it would work. But otherwise, and sometimes it would be time sensitive where you had to put the key in a lock while someone's chasing you. And if you don't get it in the right angle, it should just work when you're approaching it. And it's not like a get good situation. It's just like, oh, it's the clipping point or the interaction point is off or something like that, and it's just, they didn't fix it. We ran into that weird bug where that guy kept appearing out of nowhere, and we were almost going to restart from the last checkpoint, but it was just a weird glitch that we weren't supposed to encounter.
Things like that make it like you start thinking like, are we doing anything wrong? Is it like, are we doing something wrong here, or
right.
what is happening here? Because like sometimes I don't know if they're trying to make the game clunky on purpose to make it hard, or to make it like try to make it hard so you actually feel fear when something is trying to chase you.
Right.
But I don't know. Sometimes that kind of works toward like against the game. I would say.
Yeah, and I think with the hammer mechanic, right? Go on another thing, right? Like grabbing the hammer. We spent like 30 minutes trying to beat the last boss, and part of it relied on us using an axe. And you can't just grab the axe. You have to like run to it and run to the very specific part of the axe that you can interact with, which is like the front right of it, in order for it to be able to trigger the picking up animation. Or else if you approach it from the wrong angle, it wouldn't do it, which was so frustrating, because you had to.
Because like we got to a point where we were like, are we doing something wrong? Like, do we need to change tactics, or like, are we not supposed to do it like this way?
Yeah.
That was
very big pain point for sure.
Yeah.
So that was frustrating. Also,
we beat the game using that tactic. We're just like we just needed to get the timing. Timing right.
I mean, we failed so many times that I thought, maybe we're just doing it wrong and we're brute forcing it the wrong way. But it was like timing and being able to interact with certain objects in the way the game wanted you to, as opposed to what made sense, right?
Yeah.
And also a big complaint was like a new mechanic was being able to damage like those porcelain dolls, right? Like, because before it was just running away. In this game, you can actually fight, right? And you couldn't fight with everything, but you can fight with those dolls that are the same size as you. And it was just not satisfying. It brought no value, in my opinion, to the game. It didn't bring any. Didn't make the game better. It made it annoying. Every time I saw that you had to fight, I was like, oh no,
They had this something similar to that in the first game, which was the snakes, or like, I don't know, the snails that will grab onto you and choke you.
Right. Yeah.
But they were also really, that was a super frustrating. Like whenever I saw them, I was like, "Fuck that! I'm gonna hate this place."
I would say, I mean, if the controls were any worse, it would have ruined the game completely for me. But like everything else was so intriguing, and I loved the world that we're drawn into that it made me want to stay. Because I've stopped games for shitty controls before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? Overall impressions?
No, I think I said my piece. I like it was still it. It is a great game, definitely, but yeah, it has some flaws. But like those flaws can you can always go back and fix them. I think there's like nothing wrong with the presentation or
Yeah.
like the overall design of the game. You just controls need to maybe be a little better. I don't know.
As a sequel, do you think it's a good sequel?
For sure, yeah. I mean, it takes whatever like made Little Nightmares 1 great, and they just like dig deeper and just evolve that. It is basically more Little Nightmares. If you really enjoyed the first one, this is more of it.
True. Yeah. I like it feels like a good sequel. They don't try to reinvent the wheel. They just try to improve what was already there. And I love that. Right. Like sometimes they try to take too many risks because they feel like they have to be so different. But you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right.
Exactly. And the first game didn't have that many puzzles, but I think they introduced a lot more puzzles in this game, and I think that works for the game. I think that was it adds some gameplay to it, other than just running and platforming.
Yeah. So how about this? Let's play this game. If you enjoyed game X or Y, you would enjoy Little Nightmares 2.
If you enjoy Little Nightmares 1, you would probably enjoy Little Nightmares
Nice
2.
answer.
I haven't played that many of these. I think you play more than me. You played Inside and what's that name? What's that a game with the same like silhouette?
Limbo.
Limbo, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you played more of them, but I guess they're in the same genre.
I would say so. 2D puzzle platformer ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I would agree with that. Like, if you liked Inside, if you liked Limbo, which was the precursor to Inside, you would like Little Nightmares 2. They scratch the same itch in terms of spooky atmosphere, kind of background storytelling, and very simplistic mechanics, but kind of switched up. If I were to choose, I would say Inside is subjectively a better game in terms of like the gameplay is a lot tighter in Inside. But just the graphics and presentation wise in Little Nightmares 2 is like very, very impressive. If we were to go to less direct comparison, because they're both kind of 2D-ish puzzle platformers, if anyone's watching us that follows The Witness, but you want to scratch a different itch, if you like The Witness, which is very puzzle based, you might like Little Nightmares 2 if you just so happen to like horror themed games, right? Because puzzles, there's a good puzzle element to this.
If you really like The Witness, you're probably on another tier of puzzle solving than
yeah, that's true.
Because puzzles are quite simple if you would compare them to a game like The Witness.
Yeah,
but
or like even just walking sim puzzles.
Like a math genius playing with The Witness when you're actually solving the puzzles.
That's true. We never felt like gods solving puzzles in Little Nightmares. We just like relieved.
Yeah, exactly. You would probably feel more dumb when you just solve these puzzles. Like, oh right, of course we were just overthinking it.
Yeah. The game kind of did that a few times, right? Where it's like we gave the game more credit than it actually needed, right? Like we thought the game was smarter than it actually was a few times. When like the solution was just more simple than it needed to be.
Yeah.
I guess like a lot of our thoughts were kind of said during game. Like if you guys missed it, all of our gameplay footage for Little Nightmares 2 is uploaded on YouTube currently at Indie Game Social Club. But I mean, I'm ready to kind of slowly wind down with this discussion, but we like to usually end on who is this game for before we give a custom rating system. Who do you think this game's for?
I would say if you enjoy horror games or horror themed games, this is definitely for you. It's not a long game, so if you have a short attention span, it's also a game for you. I don't know. I want to say if you enjoy platform games, it might be for you. But also, I don't know if there's that much platforming in this game. But yeah, I would go with it with the horror and the puzzle theme.
Yeah, in horror games, I like to look at them at a moment by moment basis. Like, how many great moments does that game have that are not cheap jump scares, right? And this game had a lot of really great moments. And what makes this game great is also what makes a good horror movie great, which is like good moments that don't rely on atmosphere and more about mood and like psychological fear than actual boo fear. That's what I really liked about Little Nightmares. And I think, obviously it's like a love letter to, what's that?
I would say that atmosphere has something to do with that, because like you're building an atmosphere, and that is creepy in itself.
Absolutely, yeah. And so like if you go into like, this game was made for, obviously, if you loved Little Nightmares 1, it's like, hey, we know what you love. We're going to give you more of that. We're going to give you a little bit more of the world. But also, if you're coming into this game, they address the game in such a way that you don't need to play the first game if you want to play this game. It's a great game standalone. And if you really enjoyed the first game, it's just more stuff. And you can play it either way, which I think is handled nicely. I just wish that they could have brought up, tied the stories together more, which we might get in DLC. So we'll see.
Maybe.
So at Indie Game Social Club, even though it smells and looks like a rating system, we don't like to rate games on 1 through 10, because how can you give a game a 1 through 10 if you're comparing two completely different genres? So we like to judge it against itself, right? So the metric that we go by is, if this game set out to do this task, did it accomplish this task successfully, right? For example, a notorious game that we judged was Rain World, which none of us enjoyed, but the goal of the developer was to capture a feeling of being lost and helpless in a game. Yeah. And they executed that feeling of being lost and helpless in a game that we hated, but they did it perfectly. And so we gave that game a perfect score in terms of like, they achieved what they were trying to execute, right? And so for this game, I feel like they were trying to achieve a great, faithful sequel to Little Nightmares 1, expand on those core ideas, and build out the story. And on a rating system, rather than 1 through 10, we go through a rating system that makes sense to the game. So what rating system should we use through this game? Gnome heads, secret hats?
Yeah, I was going to say hats, actually.
Yeah. 1 through 18 secret hats. What would you judge this game in terms of execution on the vision?
Too many hats. I want to say like 18 out of 18, because like I think you have a really good point that they are setting out to make a good sequel to their first game, and they definitely do that. Like it is more of this. If you like the first game, you will probably really enjoy this the second game as well. They took everything from that and added more of it and made it a little bit better. So yeah, they definitely accomplished what they set out for.
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with you on that one. Although I would give 17 out of 18 secret hats, purely because, like, objectively speaking, they were adding some mechanics that would enhance gameplay and evolve it from where it was, right? But I think they could have play tested it a little more to hammer out those pain points that we had, because we had those pain points that like broke up the pace of the game and made us enjoy the game less, right? Like those pain points on execution, on principle, it made the game like different, but on execution, it hampered it and got in the way of us enjoying their refreshment of the game, right? Like of what they brought to the game. So like, while we still had a great time with it, those things, man, they were so frustrating,
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, amazing sequel. I wouldn't say it's a perfect sequel, but it's such a great sequel. And they did everything right. From we brought it up a few times, but I love it when a game tells you what it's going to give you in the first 5 minutes. And in the first 5 minutes of Little Nightmares 2, you're running away from a hunter, and you meet your partner, and you shoot the hunter in the face. And we're like, whoa, okay, so this is where we're going with this, huh? And
set the tone.
Yeah, there you go. That's a better word for it. Yeah, definitely set the tone. And after that point, it did not disappoint. Like that was like not even the high point of the game, but it started off really high, and every point after that was like, whoa. Between that and like the scary long neck person that really kind of was really disturbing, and the person that was like hanging on the ceiling and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
the doctor.
Pretty good stuff. But yeah, that's what I have to say about that game. Any other thoughts, Ilker?
I think I said my piece. Definitely recommend the game. Like it's a really good sequel.
Yeah. I'd recommend it. It is on the pricier side of an indie game. I want to say like $20-$30. If you're a fan of Little Nightmares 1, definitely get it. 100% get it. I would say, on the stream, there's a hunter. If you're are new to the Little Nightmares saga, maybe wait for a sale that it's not full price, but for the money, for me, if you can afford it, it's phenomenal. It's great.
Yeah.
And on the stream right now, you can see how they use this volumetric lighting system from Unreal Engine. It's gorgeous. Like from a cinematic point of view, it's absolutely beautiful. And it just adds so much presence to that guy. They could have just showed a guy at a counter, but showing him in silhouette with the lighting was so great. And before we spoil it, we should stop the stream so we don't spoil. I mean, we've already spoiled it, but like the visual for people to watch, it's pretty great.
Yeah, I just love watching this.
Anyways, that's Little Nightmares 2. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up by saying follow us again tomorrow afternoon for our witness stream with Simon. And then what else we got going on, Ilker?
Well, we got the monthly discussion coming up on Sunday.
Same time.
And yep, that's going to be same time. That's 11 or is it 10? It's going to be 10 a.m. for you guys in
most likely.
California.
Pretty sure.
Yeah. And on the evening for anyone living in Central Europe or Central European time.
Yep.
And also, I'm not sure what we're going to do, but we'll talk about this after stream. We got Easter coming up next week, and we're going to have a few holidays here in like a few red days or bank holidays in Sweden. So probably going to go away for a few days.
Much needed for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Alrighty, and then until tomorrow or next time, try to play With the Golf. Would love to see everyone in chat and join in on the discussion. Meanwhile, maybe see you during the witness. Give us some tips along the way. Until then, say goodbye, Ilker.
Goodbye, hej då.
Hej då. Oh, shit. Oh, our intro's not working. Oh, no, embarrassing.
Oh, no.
Well, I don't know what happened to our intro, but I'm just going to play the transition and say goodbye. And goodbye.